Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Robby Rowland, and you're listening to The Robby Rowe Show, Episode 1. Yo, it's your boy, Robby Rowland, on The Robby Rowe Show. First episode, let's grind through this together. So, like I said, it's going to be just me talking. I have a plan. I have a goal as to get as many guests as I can on here to interview them. But for this first one, let me just let you all know a little bit about me, kind of give you the full outline story on the About Me. It's going to be pretty long. So stick with me. I'll give the podcast details. I will give kind of my whole goal as far as what I'm starting here as far as this brand goes. So sit back, enjoy episode 1. For those that kind of actually listen to the whole thing, I am wanting to know if you listen to the whole thing. I think it's about an hour, and it's my full story as far as professional baseball goes. So if you do listen to the whole thing, let me know how you like it. There's a lot of ways you can get a hold of me, so let me know. I think it'll be cool. But yeah, so sit back, enjoy the Robby Rowe Show, episode 1. All right, guys, I just want to kind of go over the goals with this podcast and kind of the layout and what it's going to look like, what I envision it to look like. I don't know how well the execution will be. So hopefully a lot of people can just bear with me through the early stages, through the grind stages. I just learned how to do a podcast like 2 days ago, and it's all on my own, so I'm just trying to figure this out. So my goal is to have essentially like a weekly podcast put out, and each week kind of either talk just me about some specific topics that I think may be interesting to the youth, to whoever likes baseball, pitching, whatever. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be about baseball. It could be, about nutrition, could be about working out, exercise. I guess that's the same thing. Yikes. Just anything kind of that's a huge priority in my life that I have a desire to talk about. And one thing you should know about me is like I love to talk, right? That's something that I've always been. I don't know if I would say I'm good at it. I enjoy it, and so I think this will be a good outlet for me to kind of express myself and express my personality to the outside world, and I think it'll be fun. So, outline of the podcast, like I said, each week try to have a guest. I just learned how to record like Skype or FaceTime calls with certain guests, and I can interview them. A thing that I want to do is have some input from people as far as like through my social media accounts. So like someone can message me on Twitter, someone can message me on Instagram, or probably even email me who they want to have on, and then when I do pick the guest, I'll make sure to put it like on my Instagram. So and so's coming on tomorrow. Send in some questions that you would like to have for this individual, and then I get some questions, and then I can have a segment on the show while interviewing the person, and just be like, hey, and then so and so wanted to ask you this question, and then he'd answer it, and then so and so wanted to ask you this, and then so forth, so on. So I think that'd be kind of a cool little outlet to get your questions answered, and then understand who's on the show. Next thing, I want to add that I'm creating a website right now. I'm in the process of doing it and in the process of learning how to do it. Not the easiest thing in the world, but it's fun. And this is all stemming from, like I said, my desire to kind of just share the information and share the knowledge that I've gained throughout my life, because I know there's individuals that don't have access to a lot of things to get better, right? Whether it be like a role model or a person that you can work with on a continuous basis to improve your game, or just whatever it may be. And I have a desire to be that individual, just to inspire, to motivate someone to improve, right? And it doesn't have to be just necessarily in baseball, just to improve in all facets of life, to make you just a better human being, a better brother, better son, better student, whatever. It doesn't matter, just to constantly improve your overall being. So the website's going to include, I'll have a blog post on there. I enjoy writing, and there's a lot of things that I could potentially write about. And remember, all these things are influenced by you guys. So if there's something that you want to hear about, something that you want to read about or see through like a YouTube, just let me know. I'll throw all the contact information out there so you guys can have full connectivity to me at all times. If that sounds weird, I guess it does, right? But oh well. So like I said, this website, blog posts, podcast links, YouTube videos. I'll have like instructional videos on there, and I'll put that link to the website probably in my Instagram bio. And then hopefully a lot of you through Instagram can get connected to this podcast. And then those of you who are not connected to the podcast or not connected to my Instagram account, you can get connected through, just going there and searching for me. Well, this is typically when the interview would start on who I'm interviewing. And, typically I want it to be maybe 30, 45 to an hour. I don't want anything too long because I know a lot of people are pressed for time. The main goal for me would to be get a whole podcast episode in the amount of time that someone could possibly be driving to work or working out. For me personally, I like listening to podcasts on walks, runs, working out, road trips, driving somewhere that's a decent amount of time away. So that would be the main goal. For this particular episode, it's just going to be me. Like I said, it's my first one. It's going to be raw, but sometimes raw could be good. So who knows? And I might add, it's funny because I'm sitting here. I'm in Puerto Rico right now playing winter ball, and I'm sitting here by myself. And as I talk, I'm giving hand gestures. And mind you, I think I'm on my third cup of coffee, and it's not even 9 a.m. But besides the point, okay, so let's get this started. Interview myself. For those of you who don't know me, and I'm hoping some of you have a basis of what or who I am just through social media. Speaking of social media, Instagram, Robby Row 12, YouTube, Robby Row 12, Twitter, Robby Row _12. Follow your boy. Yeah. Now let's get into the about me. So I'm a professional baseball player, and that doesn't necessarily define me. It's something that I do, and it's something that I've loved as long as I can remember. My roots stem from my father, who played 10 seasons professionally, parts of 6 in the big league. So I was just born into it, born around it, and then raised through it. So I was born in 1991. I'm old, whatever. But my dad was playing for Toledo at the time. So I was born in Toledo, Ohio in 1991, December, if you really wanted to know. He was with the Tigers at the time, so when I was born, he was in the midst of his prime, obviously still playing and living that type of life. So I was born into a life of travel, life of ball, and that's really like the only thing like I knew kind of growing up, and just fell in love with that lifestyle, fell in love with the game, and never really looked back from there. Flash forward to 2010, senior year in high school, gained a lot of interest from scouts and did some showcases the previous fall, and gained some notoriety and was throwing hard, was throwing good, and just had an idea of kind of how to approach the game. And I don't know if I mentioned yet, but I'm a pitcher. And throughout that season, I started gaining more and more attention from scouts, major league teams. So I kind of had an idea of what was going to happen as far as the draft goes. I had committed to the University of Oregon on a scholarship to play baseball. And throughout that whole process, I kind of knew, like, okay, this is something to fall back on, but I really did want to play professional baseball. I just, like I said before, I was so accustomed to that baseball lifestyle that I just figured I was ready for it. So flash forward to June of 2010, and the D-backs call in the third round, and I was ready. I was ready to rock. So I got drafted third round, 88th overall. The 2010 Major League Draft was a dream come true. It was an unreal experience. Something that you look back on in your life, and it's just like a whirlwind. Like you don't really realize it in the moment how special it is, but when you look back on it, you're like, man, I sometimes want to play that again and get to experience that again, because it's definitely surreal. So I encourage everyone that goes through that same process to take every single day and just truly cherish it, man. And not a lot of people to get to go through that, and I was truly blessed to be able to do that. So flash forward to that first year, D-backs send me to Missoula, Montana. I got to play my first professional season in Missoula, Montana, with my brother, actually. So we negotiated a brother deal that the Diamondbacks signed both of us and sent us both to Missoula. And Missoula was fun. That was a good season. I threw well. Was limited on the amount of innings I could throw. I was a starter at the time, but it was a good season. Learned a lot. Worked hard and was just oblivious to really everything kind of going on around me. I just was just a long-haired, 6'5", goofy kid that just wanted to throw a baseball, which that simple approach we'll touch on later, but was probably the best thing for me. So flash forward to that off season, I'm training, getting ready to roll out to spring, and it will be my first spring training. So my brother and I get ready to go. We drive down to Phoenix or Scottsdale. That's where our spring training facility was. And I think maybe a week or two into camp, my brother gets released. He was a free agent. He had a good season in 2010, but it was kind of my first taste of that baseball politics thing. As far as, we don't have room for you, or we got guys in front of you that sign for more money, blah, blah, blah. So it was my first taste of it. And it was tough, I guess, to put it simply. I was kind of like mad at the organization just because of how things went. So I just kind of figured, okay, whatever, like control what I can control, like still go out and throw well. And then they tell me that even though I had a pretty decent 2010 for an 18-year-old, I was going to go to extended spring training. And for those of you who don't know what extended spring training is, it's the worst thing in professional baseball. And now I know I'm sounding like a prima donna because I am in professional baseball and I am getting paid to play, but extended spring training is miserable. You wake up at 5:30, 6 a.m. every day. You're in Arizona, so it's a million degrees. You're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So for those of you who are good at vocab, that's called insanity. And you're just honing in on your craft. You're trying to get better while just hammering repetitions of things that aren't necessarily that exciting. But that's the ugly truth. Now, there's two ways to approach that, right? You can hammer it with 110% conviction and really try to get better at, the little things of holding runners, pickoffs, PFPs, backing up bases, whatever it may be. Yeah, you can really focus in on those. Or you can walk through the motions and probably not get better. I was 19, so I want to please everybody. So I hammered them. And yeah, So go to extended spring training, throw pretty well. Now I get my first taste of professional baseball changing you, and not changing you for like, them with the intentions of, hey, I want to make this guy worse. Now I know that everything is in with good intentions. They see something that maybe they can get you better at. Now I understand that. At the time, like I said, 19, maybe a little immature. I didn't realize that I had the power to say no, right? So with that being said, I kind of just walked into that saying, okay, yes, I'll do everything that they want me to do. And that involved changing mechanical things, changing my arm angle, just whatever it was. And then I got stuck in a trap of not knowing my identity anymore, not knowing what I was as a pitcher goes, like how, not necessarily to the degree of not knowing how to throw a baseball again, but definitely to a degree of really fighting myself to compete successfully. So all that happens. They tinker me a lot, kind of lose the type of pitcher that I was that made me successful earlier, and they send me back to Missoula in 2011 for my second season. With that being said, I don't want to bag on anyone in particular. Now this is not why I want to do this. This is simply just getting my story out there, getting the basis of what happened to me and what's got me to the point where I am now. I don't necessarily regret any of the things that happened, right? Because like I said before, anytime you're a pitching coach or a pitching coordinator in affiliated ball, college ball, like whatever, you have an idea of what it takes. And you have information that could potentially help an individual. Now, it's the application of the information that you know, and then it's a lot of it is on the athlete. I fully take responsibility of a lot of the downfalls that I've had when it comes to taking in too much information at one time or not applying it correctly. So just to clear the air there, for anyone who's listening that's a coach or anything, this is not bagging on you guys for giving people information. It just, the way it turned out was the way it turned out. Okay, 2011. I go back to rookie ball, second year. I'm upset just because I'm repeating a level. Anytime you repeat a level, it's not good. But at the same time, it's baseball, and I've always done a really good job of just enjoying that, just enjoying the basis of the game itself. I've always loved the game, still love the game, and that's what's still driving me at this point. But I'm starting still, and first outing was great. Was opening night starter, was good, and then I get a concussion, and not blaming anything on this concussion, I miss a start, and then my next start I do bad, and then I fall into this major quicksand. And then for those of you who don't know what quicksand is in an athletic sporting term, it's when you're stuck. And the harder you try to fight to get out, the more and more stuck you get, and the deeper and deeper you sink. So that's what's happening to me at this time. And remember, I'm 19, I'm on my own. It's tough. And again, I'm really not trying to sound like a prima donna. I'm giving my story. This is what's happening in my life. So, really long story short of 2011, I still continue to fight mechanical issues. I really lose my identity and everything. It's not so much that I was going out there and throwing balls all the time. I was just getting hit really hard and didn't know really how to pitch and gave up a lot of home runs. Ended up the season with like an 8 ERA, and I started all year. And it was tough because here's the thing. I was a third rounder in high school, a little small high school. I did showcases, like I said, but I never dealt with failure, and I didn't know how to deal with that failure. I was getting my first taste of it in professional baseball in a crucial season, so it was tough. I didn't know really anything to fall back to, so I really just tried to grind it out. But anyways, after that season's over, they invite me to the instructional league there in Scottsdale, so more baseball, and the pitching coordinator and I got together, I think one of the first few days that I was there, and we had a conversation about me potentially dropping down to like a low 3/4, maybe high 3/4 arm slot at the time, because I was really over the top. My intentions were to throw hard downhill, use my 6'5" frame, get on top of the baseball, and then I had a 12-6 curveball that came out of that same slot, which I thought was tough to hit, but that previous season didn't really say so. So I'm on board at this point, right? And I still have this personality where I just want to please people, and especially I want to please the organization that drafted me and spent a lot of money on me. So I'm like, yeah, like I'm on board. I'm tired of freaking giving it up. So we get together, and I think the first week or two of Instructs, it's just based on a lot of video work, a lot of conversations on how to go about this particular process of like changing, literally reinventing myself, right? So we go 2 weeks, minimal touching of baseball, a lot of video, a lot of conversations, like I said, and then finally we get going. And the cool part was it was something new, and it was something to look forward to kind of each and every day I got to the park, as far as getting better at that particular thing. So yeah, it went really good, actually. It was funny how kind of quick I grasped onto it. The whole basis of my understanding of it was kind of just to be athletic, and they would roll me ground balls when I was on the mound, and they would tell me to throw it kind of like a shortstop, and that kind of put my arm in a natural position, I guess. Like I said, a little low 3/4. Anyways, got into games that Instructs and threw really well. I think I threw in like 3 or 4 games that Instructs, and it was really good. Like I had movement on my fastball for the first time in my whole life. Could cut the ball. Curveball was a different shape, but it was good, and it was cool, and I was pleased about it. So go into that off season kind of on a high note. Get ready throughout that whole off season, kind of just hammer some things home. This is the point in my career when I finally like really get into the mechanical side of things, right? Because flash forward 2 years ago, I'm 18. I'm not knowing what I'm doing. Life is simple. I just throw a baseball for a living, and I try to get people out. Now, fast forward 2 years, and now we're diving into videos, interviews with particular big leaguers on how they, what they do as far as workout routines, just everything. Diving into everything at this point, just flooding my brain with information. Going to spring training that next year, so this is 2012. Go back to spring training, and I got this new arm slot. Everything's good. I ended the previous year on a high note in Instruct, so I feel pretty good about myself. My arm feels good, body feels good. Worked hard that whole off season, not just physically but mentally as well. Going to camp, and I think my first outing at camp went pretty well. Like they were allowing me to start still, so first outing went well. And then I think it was after my first outing, maybe after my second outing, I come down with mono. So that's another thing. And I think I missed maybe like a week or two. I didn't know it at the time. They actually got the blood work back from my physical and had to tell me. That's a funny, longer story for another time, I guess. But yeah, and then finally come back. And when I come back, I'm like throwing 85 miles an hour. For those of you who throw 85, it's nothing against you guys. It was just me telling you that my arm conditioning and strength was not there. And at this point, I'm trying to make a full season club, right? I don't want to go back to short season. I don't want to do extended spring training. Like I said, that's like the worst thing for anyone at the time. And I'm 20, and it's like my third year, so I'm trying to get a move on in my career. And So I think, like 3 or 4 days left in camp. I'm battling for a job. There were some conversations about me potentially going to the bullpen, which was fine. Like I said, I just wanted to get out of extended spring training. So 3 days left of camp, I have a conversation with the minor league coordinator guy, and just seeing where his head was at. And he said at the time that I was probably slotted to go back extended spring training, just because I hadn't developed the way that they wanted me to, which was a tough pill to swallow, just because I knew how much work I had put in. And when I got to camp, um, got sick, and not to make excuses, like I didn't perform as well as I could have. Just that's the way the ball goes sometimes. So literally the last day of spring training, it's like April 1st or March 3rd. I think it was April 1st because yeah. So I get a call from that same gentleman telling me that I got traded to Pittsburgh and to report there as soon as I could. They're expecting me. And anytime you get traded, it's kind of like a whirlwind thing. All these things rush through your head at the same time, and you kind of just want to be quiet with your mind, but you can't. A lot of things go through your head. So, long story short about that process, I said, okay. I got in my truck. My dad flew out, drove with me from Arizona because I had my truck at the time and an apartment. So, drove from Arizona, packed everything up that night, and then drove to Bradenton, Florida, where the Pirates spring training facility was, or is, and started that whole new adventure. So I get to their extended spring training, and we kind of have a conversation about what the plan is with me. And they were concerned about my mono when in spring training, so they kind of said, "Hey, we don't think you're 100%. We're going to keep you here." So at the same time, I'm kind of upset because I'm in extended spring training, but at the same time, I'm in a new. I got new scenery, and anytime you can change up the scenery for an athlete, I think it's good, especially if they're struggling. So I get there, and I'm still sticking with this new arm angle, new mechanics, kind of really honing in on reinventing myself. And it was a good opportunity for me when I got traded, because none of those guys had seen me. None of those guys know my makeup, so I'm just starting from scratch essentially. So I get there, and they give me like a week, I think, of just bullpens and looking at me and stuff to determine I'm ready for a game, and give me enough time to get my strength up. And so finally, when I get into a game, I'm nails. I've finally not perfected my craft, but definitely have come a long way from first starting it. So my command's good, my velocity's back. And when I dropped my arm angle, I wasn't throwing 95 like I was in high school anymore. I was kind of like 88, 92, but with a lot of movement, relying on movement down in the zone. And Pittsburgh at the time was a huge fan of sinker ballers, so that played into my case too. So I think I threw like 4 or 5 extended spring training outings as a starter, and they all went fairly well. Made quick work of guys, pounded the zone, just impressed. And anytime you have an ability to make a good first impression, that's huge, especially in that line of business, because it sticks with people's minds for a long time. So after like 4 or 5 outings, they call me into the office, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna send you to West Virginia," which was low A for the Pirates at the time. So I got the chance to finally get my first full season call in 2012. And it's like May something at the time. So I get up there, and my first outing's out of the pen, because they already have 5 starters. They just need arms. And first outing out of the pen, throw well. It was actually my first ever pro outing out of the pen, so it was kind of cool. And then I think one of their starters got hurt, and then I made my first, like, it was supposed to be a spot start, I think, in Lexington, Kentucky, and threw well. And that kind of got me into the starting rotation, and just pitched the rest of the year in the starting rotation. It was my best season. I kind of got back to that simple approach of just throw the ball, let them hit it on the ground, quick work, quick outs, let's go. And it worked for me. I finished the year with like a 3 ERA or something and logged a lot of innings. And that was the big thing for me, going deep into games. And I did that fairly often with low pitch counts and just attacking the zone. So finished that year strong. Mental side of myself was good, right? So I'm kind of on a good high note with that organization. Made a good first impression. I go into their instructs that year, and their big thing was them kind of wanting me to throw a little bit harder because of my frame. They knew my draft profile when I was 18. I threw hard, and just projectable frame. So we go into instructs, and the main goal was seeing anything mechanically that we can clean up, or arm angle we can clean up to kind of get some more velo. And I wasn't throwing too slow. Like I said, I was 88, 92. I think I touched 94 that season on some adrenaline. But anytime you have a big guy on the mound, you want to see some velo. So spent that instructional league with the Pirates in 2012 just focusing on that. What I didn't know was why change things when I finally have success. Dun, dun, dun. So I have actually a pretty good instructional league, and I do actually see an increase in velo. And I don't know if I saw that just because I wasn't throwing 6 or 7 innings. It was kind of a 1-2 inning stint each time. But finish instructional league, head to the off season. I have some mechanical cues that they told me that maybe would help me throw harder, and kind of focus on those that particular off season. Come back to camp, actually have a pretty decent spring training in 2013 as a starter. They already told me I was going to high A. But then I guess you could say my perfectionism kind of hits, and I'm not satisfied with some of the things going on, and I'm getting kind of more information from certain people about what to do mechanically to throw harder, and I kind of start diving into that a little bit more. And long story short, your boy loses himself again, and this is when I would say I hit rock bottom in 2013, just because I totally lose myself again. This time worse than it was in 2019. I had things that I wanted to do mechanically that would make me throw harder, and at the end of the day, it worsened me, and I completely lost who I was the year before. I got it, and this time it was different, because it wasn't that I was getting like hit around. It was that I had no idea where the ball was going, and I had no feel for the ball in my hands, and I'm trying to start every 5 days, and I'm trying to compete, but I can't help but get mentally defeated just because I don't really know how to throw a baseball at this point. And you want to talk about quicksand. This is bad. So I spent all of 2013 just grinding. I actually end up finishing the last month on a decent note, but at this point in time, it's almost too late, just because I had such a bad year, not knowing where the ball was going and just trying to grind, trying to find myself the 4 days in between, not really having enough time. But I was healthy, so I guess on a good note. But I ended up finishing the last month on a decent note. I think my last 5 or 6 starts were like all wins, but it was just like I was throwing 83, 85 at the time, and have really no idea what's happening. So and this is the first year I don't get invited back to instructional league. So I kind of know that my prospect status is fading, or had faded. So I go into 14. Well, actually, the off season going into 14, I worked as hard as I ever in my life. I fully dedicated myself to a weight training program. I just trained all off season with full intent of I need to get back to throwing harder, or else I'm done. That's the bottom line. So with all that being said, I don't change my arm angle, right? I continue to throw at that kind of low 3/4 arm angle, which at this point was something that I think the Pirates still liked. Like I said, they still liked the sinker baller. So heading into 14, I'm going into camp. Already have an idea of like, okay, I'm battling for a job, and probably have an idea that I'm going to the bullpen. Excuse me. And go to camp. I actually have a decent camp. I make a team. I repeat high A again, and I'm coming out of the bullpen. And at this time, I'm doing okay. Numbers won't consist that if you look at them, but I did pretty good. I think my first 10 outings, I didn't give up a run out of the pen. I'm still throwing from like a low angle. I'm sinking it. My velo's a better. It's consistently like around 90 now. And then, just out of the bullpen, you have one outing, you give up a 3 spot, right? And your ERA jumps like 2 whole runs. And then you battle to get that back down, and then you have another outing like that. I think that was my biggest problem that year, is I would have these blow-up outings where I'd give up multiple runs at times, and then I would go 4 or 5 straight without giving it a run, whatever. And then next thing you know, I look at my ERA and I'm like at a 5 or a 6 or whatever it was, and I'm like, frick, man, I feel good. Like I feel like I'm throwing good sometimes, but numbers don't consist. So then it comes, I think it's like June or July, and they put me on what's called a phantom DL, basically like the disabled list, that you're not hurt, but they clear room for someone else to take your spot. So you're with the team still, you're not hurt, but you're just, with them, just doing your daily thing, not being able to play in games. So I think I'm on that for 10 days, and it kind of hits me that I was like, I need to do something quick or I'm out of here. And just playing around in the outfield, I throw a ball like over the top, as in like the high arm angle that I had previously in like high school and whatnot. And the ball comes out pretty good. And the guy that I was like playing catch with jokingly was like, dude, that's like coming out really good. Like, you're kind of, you're on the phantom, nothing's going to hurt if you throw a bullpen like that. So I'm like, okay. So I asked the pitching coach to throw a bullpen over the top again. And he's like, yeah, why not? And he brings out this gun to radar me to see where I'm at. And I'm throwing this bullpen and things are just flowing naturally. And I'm like, man, this feels pretty good, and like I'm consistent in the zone and I'm downhill and it just feels like it's coming out good. And he's like, yeah, I mean, you were 90-94 in a bullpen. And I'm sitting here on the phantom in high A repeating. And I'm like, what am I doing? So I finally just tell myself, okay, I'm making the change. Like, why not? So make the change back to over the top mechanically. Try to keep things simple, because I know at this time, like, what the worst thing for me is to overlook it, make it all complex again, and just drown myself in information. So I just keep it simple. And I think like 3 days after that, they clear me to go in a game, and like I throw well, and I'm hitting like 94, 95 in a game. And I'm like, shoot, man, like that was maybe the thing. Like that's what I needed. And then like 2 weeks later, they call me in the office and say, hey, like this is about the time of the season we make changes, and your name came up, and we're going to have to send you back down. So I get sent down to low A again. So this is 2014. I had just pitched in low A in 2012 and threw really well, and now I'm going back to low A. And so I get down there kind of just having like the worst of times, just because I'm back down to a spot. I don't really know anyone down there. All my boys are like up higher levels. So I'm grinding, I'm just saying, okay, I know kind of what's in me. I know I can succeed. My arm feels good. I'm healthy. So like, let's go. Let's just control the things we can control at this time. Don't think anything of the move, because it's a business. I understand that. I'm actually decent mentally right now. So I get down there, and I think my first outing down there was okay. Like I was throwing pretty hard, and then I get with the coaching staff down there, and we kind of come up with a plan of where they want to see me. And to my knowledge, and remember, this was kind of all a big roller coaster, but to my knowledge, I remember them kind of coming to the terms that they liked me from that 3/4 slot. And so at this time, we kind of fight to get back to where I was with that arm angle. So now I'm changing again. and I'm trying to go out there and compete again. And I'm just, at this time, I'm trying so hard to please everybody that I fully forget who I am, how to throw, and then I hit rock bottom. I remember particularly I had an outing down there. I go out and I'm stuck between, should I throw over the top? Should I throw 3/4? Should I even throw sidearm? What the heck's happening? I have an outing. I go out there. I throw 15 total pitches and I threw 1 strike. And I think 3 days later after that, I get the call to the office and they say, organization's got to make a change. We're going to release you. So now I'm officially rock bottom, because not only do I not know how to throw a baseball, I don't no longer have a team. So I get in my car. At this time, I have an apartment in Florida where I was playing, and I'm in West Virginia. So I get in my car and I just drive to Florida, trying to clear my head. I get a few calls from like some indie ball teams, and I'm like, no, I don't want to play. I don't want to pick up a baseball right now. I need to clear my head. So I go to Florida, and I stay there for like a month before I go back home to California and just totally clear my head. And as soon as I get home to California, I get with my dad, and we develop this plan. I'm saying, Dad, we got to get me to where I was in high school. Whatever that takes, we're going to get there, And now my high school self, things that I did to succeed was I threw a lot of long toss. Every time I touched a ball, I had the intent to throw hard, and I threw often, almost every day. And I threw from an over-the-top arm angle. So that whole time, and this is August, when I get released in August. So that whole time was me, trying to get back to what made me successful in the first place. So I think it took me like 2 months, right? And I'm grinding every day. I'm throwing every day. Like, bless my dad's heart, he was catching me every day, and my brother. And we're just hammering it, right? We're focusing on getting better, throwing harder, whatever. And I think like 2 months goes by, and I'm throwing and I'm long tossing, and I'm like, shoot, like I feel good. I can throw it pretty dang far. And at this point, I'll try to show you. There's some YouTube videos out there of me long tossing, and I'm throwing it like 400 plus feet. And then finally, I invest in a pocket radar. And we radar some of my pull downs, and I think I got up to like 100 miles an hour. So I'm like, okay, like I call my agent and I say, hey, I'm ready, man. Like I need to throw in front of some scouts. And he's like, okay. We finally get some scouts there. I had to drive like 2 hours to throw in front of some scouts. Long story short, I threw a bullpen, threw well, was throwing hard. I get signed by the Cardinals, going to camp 2015. I'm going to start having to speed this up. Sorry. Going to camp 2015, and they have no idea who I am. All their reports on me say I'm throwing like 85, sidearm guy, and I come into camp long tossing my butt off, throwing over the top, throwing hard, and I impress. Like I have a really good camp. At the end of camp, they kind of come up to me and like, hey, you want a job. Like you had a spring training invite. We're going to keep you. You can sign a contract, but we're going to have to send you to low A. So they send me to low A. I'm 23 at the time. Send me to low A, and I have a really good first half. I end up starting to throw really hard, consistently like 95, 96, 97, touch 99 a couple times, make the All-Star team in low A, and then get called up after the All-Star game to high A, pitch in that Florida State League. Again, same league I was in, starts having really good success. Late July, I get a call in the office. They're going to send me to Double A, so I'm going to Double A. Things are good. My mindset's good. I'm breezing through things. Not really like any emphasis on mechanics now. I'm just throwing to throw, trying to throw hard, and I'm getting outs. Go to Double A, have a pretty decent Double-A campaign, and that's another one of those things. I don't think the numbers will say that. I had one outing, I gave up 5 runs in like 2/3 of an inning, but other than that, I think I was either scoreless or not giving up too many runs. So I think like 2 weeks left of the Double-A season, I get a call from the Cardinals farm director, and he's like, "Hey, we really like you. We like the progress you've made this year. We're gonna invite you to go to the Arizona Fall League." And that's like a really big accomplishment for any baseball player. But he's like, we're gonna have to sign you for an extension to next year, because I was on a 1-year deal. So long story short, we hammer that out, get a contract for the next year, pretty decent contract, and in the contract we agreed to a big league camp invite for that 2016 season, which was like unreal. I go from being released to this next year, I'm getting a big league invite. I go to the Arizona Fall League that fall. I throw well. Things are good. I go into the 2016 offseason. Things are good, as simple as I can put it. I am in a completely new place mentally. Just totally enjoying this game again, right? Enjoying the highs of it. So, flash forward to about 2 weeks until big league camp. My first big league camp. So I'm training hard, getting ready. 2 weeks before, I go to throw one day in particular, just a random day, and I physically can't. My arm won't allow me to throw a baseball. It won't straighten. It won't even bend. So I call the Cardinals. They put me on a plane to St. Louis, get an MRI. MRI reveals that I had bone spurs. And the next day, get them removed, surgery. They say, 2 to 3 months, boom, miss big league camp. Spend time in rehab. That was a grind. First experience getting hurt. Missing a lot of time. That was my year. I had real high hopes for that particular year, but I come back. I think I come back in like July. I think it was actually like a 3 to 5 month recovery, and I come back. I had surgery in February, come back in July. So yeah, it took me like 4 months. And so I come back, and I can just tell right off the bat that like my velocity is not as where it was that previous year. Just kind of feel different. Anyways, I finish out the year. I throw okay. I get back up to Double-A. I throw okay. I don't think anything too exciting happens, but I agree to terms with a contract to go to Puerto Rico that off season. So I go there, and I actually throw well. And then while I'm in Puerto Rico, I get another call from my agent saying, "Hey, the Cardinals want to re-sign you." And I'm like, "That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that. What can we get?" Got what we wanted, and also got another big league invite for the 2017 season. So I pitch about 2 to 3 months in Puerto Rico. I throw well. I think I finished with like a 2 ERA. So I'm kind of ending that particular year on another high. I got hurt, but things happen for a reason. And I was ready to rock going into 2017. So I train. It was a weird off season just because I had never played winter ball before. So I get home in like late December, and big league camp I knew was starting in the middle of February. So my training regimen was a little bit different. Anyways, get in shape, go to big league camp. Just completely like in awe of how things are operated up there. Obviously, a little different. So this is this year, or no, I guess this is the previous year, 2017, and just controlling the controllables at this point. Not trying to do too much, but at the same time trying to impress. So first outing in big league camp, I come out. I'm facing the Atlanta Braves, and I'm facing in the 4th inning, 1-2-3 in the lineup, and I'm sitting there like, okay, I got Inciarte leadoff, Swanson 2-hole, and then Freddie Freeman 3-hole, 4-hole Matt Kemp, 5-hole Brandon Phillips. So I'm sitting here thinking like, oh my goodness. So I get a little starstruck. and I end up giving 2 runs up in an inning and don't really throw that well. But at the same time, it was my first outing ever in a big league camp, so I'm not too depressed about it. And then I think I throw 2 more times in big league camp, and they're both fairly well. And then I get sent down to minor league camp, I think, on second cuts, and I throw 1 outing in minor league camp pretty well. I think 1 inning, no runs. I don't remember the details. And then the day that I was supposed to throw again in minor league camp, I get a call into the office. And they say that they don't have room for me and they're going to let me go. So, if you can picture where I'm at mentally, I'm getting off a complete high of having my first big league camp. And I'm on a pretty good contract for that year. But they're releasing me. So I'm kind of took in complete shock. And I'm like, okay, what's happening? And finally just thank them for what they did, helping me revamp my career, and I leave. I immediately call my agent, tell him, and he was as well shocked. So now it's like, okay, well, I feel good, and I know I'm 25 at the time, so I'm like, I need to get another team. And for those of you who don't know, getting released in spring training is the worst because that's when everyone gets released, and that's when everyone tries to find jobs. So I go back to California, go back home, I wait. A couple teams had interest, and those teams fell through, and it's April at this time, like middle of April now, and I don't know what to do because I don't have a team, so I'm like, okay, I gotta go to indie ball. That's what it comes down to. I get a call from the Lincoln Salt Dogs, and they're like, hey, we need a starter. Our guy just went down with Tommy John. And I'm like, okay, I haven't started since 2013, and last time I started, it wasn't too good, but it's a team. Like, let's go. I drive out to Lincoln like 3 days after that phone call. Drive out there, get out there. I'm starting, whole new experience. Not really built up to be a starter at this point, but I don't really care. I just want to pitch. First outing of that year was good. I think I went 5 innings, 2 hits, like 1 run. Was good. And I'm like, sweet, I can just do this. Hopefully I can get signed real quick to an affiliated team and get out of here and continue this journey. And then my second start, this is like when I'm finally putting things together to be a starter again. Like I feel good. My velocity is good. And I'm in shape, and I get hit with a comebacker right in the face. Breaks my nose, deviated septum, missed 2 months. Come back 2 months later. I think I throw once or twice. Not really built up to be a starter at this time because I missed 2 months. And after my first start, I get traded. Yes, indie ball does trades to a different league, the Frontier League, which is a little bit lower experienced league, younger player league. I'm 25. I'm like one of the oldest guys there. I think you can only be 26 there. So, in a matter of, 4 months, I go from being in big league camp, potential of making a big league roster, to one of the lowest levels of independent baseball. So, at this point in my career, I'm kind of like, well, where's this going? Not really knowing, but I make the most of it. I actually knew a few buddies on that team, so I just have fun. And then that's something that I can do really well, is just have fun with the cards I'm dealt. So I'm starting there, and I get along with everyone there, and the manager there is awesome, and I just have fun. I pitch a month there. It was like the month of August, and I throw well starting, and yeah, and then the season ends. And at this point, I don't really know what's next on the old agenda. I'm turning 26 in December, and kind of not really getting any interest from affiliated teams. So I come home and kind of start pondering real life jobs and real life careers and opportunities, not really knowing what's happening. So I just kind of stay in shape, hopefully trying to get another winter ball job. But at this point, Hurricane Irma or whatever, I forget the hurricane name, in Puerto Rico. So the only potential place that I can go to play winter ball, I just had a hurricane and probably not going to have a season. So I end up moving out of home. I lived with my parents, and I moved in with a buddy down in Southern California just to get a change of scenery and just do me. And then one random day, I get a phone call from the GM of the team that I played previously in Puerto Rico saying, hey, we're going to have a season, but it's only going to be a month long. Would you be interested? I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it. Boom, got it done. And they're like, hey, we like you out of the pen. You're going to be our setup guy. I'm like, okay. I kind of at this point don't really want to start anymore. And then I think with like maybe 2 weeks left, I moved back into my parents' house so I can train baseball-related training. And at this point, I get a message on Instagram from a gentleman named Hector who says like, hey, you're working your butt off. I see all your stuff on Instagram, and I kind of feel sorry for you. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, just the way you throw a baseball is just all physically wrong. So I got 2 weeks left of Puerto Rico until Puerto Rico to go and pitch. And he's like, would you be willing to listen to what I have to say? So I'm like, yeah, whatever. What do I got to lose? And long story short, we have multiple phone conversations, multiple FaceTime conversations, and I totally change kind of the way I throw a baseball again for the better. So I get to Puerto Rico, and my first couple outings out of the pen, I'm like 93 to 97. I feel pretty good. Command is good. I'm not trying to jinx anything because I'm actually still here. We actually just clinched first place heading into the playoffs, so wish us luck there. But yeah, so things are good right now. I've come to a point in my life that I have a complete understanding of everything happens in your life for a reason, and that there's a greater plan for everything you do. And for me in particular, it's just to try to inspire as much as I can with the outlet that I have, with this platform that I have. And I've been through a lot of ups and downs in my career so far, heading into my 8th or 9th professional season. And this is kind of what's stemming from this whole podcast website thing, is that I have a desire to share that information and to share experiences and just prepare certain individuals for things in their life that they may come into encounter with that they're not suitable for at this point in time. But with all that being said, yikes, that was long. That was like my full backstory, and there's more into it. You can find it on my book that I'll probably publish when I'm done playing. All right, guys, I know that was a long one, and it's funny, too, because I remember saying in the beginning, like, hey, yeah, 30, 45 minutes. I'm at like an hour right now. I did previously state I like to talk. Hope that's okay with y'all. But that's just a full outline, a full basis of kind of the things that I've gone through just in the baseball world. And hope you enjoy it. Hope you gain something from that. I like to say that any time in life that you can be a sponge and gain as much information as possible, it's a win. So, like I said, get connected to kind of all my outlets, and you guys can just control this show. So whatever you want to hear, whoever you want to have on, like, let me know. I'm making it fully accessible to everyone. Hopefully it all works out as far as me getting to this on iTunes. But I'm trying to make it the first podcast that kind of outlines a lot of detail on baseball and like the minor league life and just the grind of it, and trying to get as many people that I can on it for y'all's entertainment and just knowledge. So, like I said, thanks for all who listened, stuck with it, and I'm just looking forward to kind of continuing this journey on it. So I think it'll be a fun time, and I'm looking forward to connecting with y'all. So I don't really know how to go about putting links on certain things, but if you got connected to this podcast through my Instagram, you can go on my Instagram page and you'll see the link to my website that will guide you everywhere. I'm going to try to figure out a way to put this podcast link on that website, so everything that really you need is on that particular website. If there's any questions, just hit me up on social media. So, like I said, thank you all for listening. I appreciate every single one of you. I hope if I can just help one person, then this will all be worth it. So, thank you all. God bless. Until next time, see ya.